Well, let's see here. How does now? I mentioned this leading ultimately to your most recent writings related to this group called Anonymous that you described at the beginning of the interview as being a decentralized group of activists of a new, perhaps a new stripe, who are using the internet as a way of communicating and planning as well as distributing their message. I wanted to comment that some of the videos that they've put out really remind me of things that I've read about in the cyberpunk fiction of William Gibson. The idea of artists releasing highly engineered, advanced video montages onto the internet that are laden with meaning and symbolism and sometimes coded information. Now, I'm not saying that there's any coded information in the videos that they've put out, but most of the ones that they've put out have some really stark imagery. In the two I first come to mind, it's dark, roiling, time-lapse photography of clouds moving over, very kind of Americana fields, and but not in a traditional patriotic sort of advertising way. As I say, the mainstream media have covered this a little. Why don't I go ahead and air this 2-minute clip here from NBC.
Is now brewing online between a secret group of computer hackers and the Church of Scientology.
Our Digital 4.4 anchor, McCullough Medina, has been following this drama very closely online, and he's got it. Mack?
The online group is called Anonymous, a mishmash of self-proclaimed hackers that have set up its sights on Scientology, all because of a church video featuring Tom Cruise that got leaked online.
I think it's a privilege to call yourself a Scientologist.
We found the video that was pulled from YouTube after the Church of Scientology demanded it be taken down because of copyright infringement.
Tom Cruise has introduced LOH technology to over 1 billion people of Earth.
The church calls it an internal video meant for members of Scientology.
Hello, leaders of Scientology. We are anonymous.
The hacker group calls it propaganda, releasing this video warning the church of the war they intend to wage.
We shall proceed to expel you from the internet and systematically dismantle the Church of Scientology in its present form.
The group of hackers appear to be upset over the way the church uniformly tried to eliminate the Cruise video from the internet.
Anonymous has therefore decided that your organization should be destroyed, for the good of your followers, for the good of mankind, and for our own enjoyment.
It's unclear which members make up the group Anonymous. A website for the project directs members to download and use what's called denial of service software that could slow down the Scientology website. They also urge members to make prank calls, publicize Scientology documents the church considers proprietary, and fax endless loops of black pages to the church's fax machines to waste ink.
We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
The Church of Scientology sent us an email response late this afternoon. It does not address the threats from the Anonymous group. It only addresses the Tom Cruise video, saying the video was pirated and edited excerpts were presented with the intent of creating both controversy and ridicule. From Digital Channel 4.4 and News Raw, I'm McConnell Medina, Channel 4 News.
Wow. Cyber war against Scientology. That's impressive.
You're not going to beat them head on. They got a lot of lawyers and they got a lot of money.
And I'm sure they have their own hackers, yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting about it, now, of course, in a sense, it's sort of like a metaphor as well. Without knowing how much, if any, Church Scientology is hooked into, the intelligence community or whatever, they're so powerful that you cannot take them head on. And also, they're not just power in terms of money, but also in terms of sort of meme propagation. They've got Tom Cruise, they've got John Travolta. They've got a lot of people in the entertainment industry who don't say they're not Scientologists but will speak out in front of them. If you think about that as sort of a model of the entire, say, U.S. government with their control, their money and their power, but also, of course, all of these different ways that our government gets its message out and sort of shapes even our cultural sort of beliefs through, whether it's entertainment media or whatever. is just almost invulnerable to a sort of frontal assault. You can't just, I mean, they're going to be doing some picketing on the 10th, but it's going to take more than that. And this is the internet culture. They looked at viral marketing and they saw how people were able to make very effective use of viral marketing techniques, which don't cost a lot of money, but are a back door into people's sort of consciousness. They get around a lot of the filters that we have. Oh, look, here's a YouTube video. What's that about? And the way that it gets passed on from person to person, and MySpace and links and things like that. It's a really interesting sort of meme warfare that's going on, and I hope that they have success. Church Scientology is going to try to, I'm sure, infiltrate them and discredit them, and I think they've already started doing things and blaming them on Anonymous. I think they sent themselves some envelopes with white powder and then suggested it was Anonymous who did it. There was nothing in the white powder, and we know they have a history of doing that exact same kind of thing. So it's going to be a tough fight, but it's an interesting model.
Some of the things that Anonymous wants people to know about, besides just the fact that it's a cult and that regardless of whether it has some kernels of truth, maybe, that they're using strong-arm tactics to get their way. It's some of those strong-arm tactics where they've gone to great lengths. I mean, as you say, they're a huge organization resistant to frontal assault, and they've waged some, I mean, they weren't frontal assaults, but they might as well have been, thousands of people infiltrating American and foreign governments to try and expunge them of documents. Was that?
Yeah.
What was the name of that operation? Is that the Snow White?
Yeah, there
was Freak Out and Snow White. I forget which one is which. I
well,
think
Freak Out was what they did to Paulette Cooper, and that was just classic COINTELPRO. And not saying the FBI was involved, but they sure paid attention to how the FBI does things. And you can read, by the way, you can find on the internet. I found a few of them, the actual documents, and what's chilling about them is how business-like these memos are about how we want to. So-and-so is going to do X, Y, and Z to try and discredit Paulette Cooper, for example. They got some stationery with her fingerprints on it and then mailed themselves a bomb threat, and then she got arrested for it.
Well, if Scientology is not a intelligence front of some kind, it's doing a really good impersonation of one. This is classic stuff here.
Some of these techniques are predate the United States. I mean, some of the spy crap's been around forever, but so anyway, they're very sophisticated. Now, I don't want to monopolize your show. I think you have other guests and that sort of thing, but that's what I have been up to, and I would sort of summarize where I'm at by saying that it appears that things like the Teresa Duncan blog, maybe some elements of some of these dramas we're seeing among some of our big celebrities, and other things that I've run into are almost like ways of pointing to a larger story that nobody can come right out and say. Certainly nobody who's involved with Scientology right now who wants to get out, but they've got the goods on them or whatever, can come right out and say, look what I'm seeing, look what's going on. But there's all these sort of back channel ways that this information is filtering out, and hopefully other people are noticing, and it'll make a difference.
Absolutely. And I would just add that you've pointed out that one of the other themes that connects this recent anti-Church of Scientology activism and the Teresa Duncan research was this whole thing with Beck, the musician who is a Scientologist and who Jeremy Blake, Teresa's boyfriend, husband, had done work for the musician Beck, and that may have been what started all the harassment, because there's rumors that somehow her project Alice Underground, retelling of the Alice in Wonderland story, was going to involve Beck, and maybe as a way of getting him out of the church or something like that. But
well, that's the kind of thing that I wonder if it's not going on, that at least that's the storyline we're supposed to receive, so that we can think in those terms. Like, why would you even need to do that? Why doesn't he just leave the church? And what's interesting is that he said he had nothing to do with that film project, and then somebody went and found an earlier interview with Beck where he discussed that film project, and it looked very much like he was working on it and very excited about being the star. It's actually, supposedly the film is about two teenagers who kidnap a rock star, and that's kind of the premise. It's kind of a comedy or whatever. They kidnap him, and his fame actually increases. That's interesting too, because that's almost like a hoax disappearance. So that sort of ties into that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea, I did hear that rumor with no way to substantiate it, that the idea was to get him involved in the film project, and somehow they were going to get him out of Scientology. I have no idea how that would work. I mean, he could just as soon get on a plane and disappear himself. I don't really know what that was about.
Yeah.
But as a theme, it makes sense. Putting him underground, and of course this idea of Alice in Wonderland and appearance versus reality, and escaping the maybe the spectacle. I know Alice in Wonderland has been used to illustrate this idea of the spectacle that keeps us all entranced rather than confronting the real life power structure. Escaping the spectacle could, in a sense, be like going on the other side of the looking glass. So thematically, it makes sense. I have no idea if it's true. I do know that the Teresa Duncan story, as the mainstream media provided it to us, has just about fallen apart. A lot of it has been called into question. Most people still think that she and Jeremy Blake are dead, and they were perhaps murdered or at least driven to suicide by various gaslighting operations. But everybody knows a Vanity Fair article, Morales, the priest who was with Blake supposedly when he discovered her body. Turns out he was dating the woman who wrote the article in Vanity Fair. They were spiritually married.
And this is the Frank Morales, who's a big figurehead in the northeastern New York area 9/11 Truth movement.
It is a tangled
Absolutely.
web.
They used to meet in that St. Mark's Church. I think they disbanded the meetings at the St. Mark's Church, but he had this whole story about how he discovered her. He went up with Blake, and then another woman named Melinda Hunt came forward and said, well, actually, I was dating this guy, and his story is not true, and I've actually interviewed her. I talked to her for about an hour and a half. I had her phone number. I did a reverse lookup. It was an M. Hunt. It was in the East Village, so I'm pretty sure it's who she said she was. I'm trying to confirm some of what she said, actually, with Jeremy Blake's stepfather right now. I've got another email, so we've been talking, but he's kind of reluctant for obvious reasons to talk about this stuff. But so his story fell apart. So it's all very suspicious. My theory could be worth nothing, but definitely, if I've done anything to call attention to the very bizarre nature of the story as it was told to us, then I'll feel pretty good about what I did, even though I kind of
even though you've taken a lot of flack for it. Well, Ty,
I have taken a little flack for it, for sure.
Well, Ty, thank you so much for taking that flack and for going down those anomalous trailheads and looking into these things. And if anybody wants to read more about this, you can find out all about his past parapolitical writings and research, including, as we discussed, his exposés on Whitley Strieber, the Stanford Research Institute's connections to Scientology, remote viewing, and New Age stratagems at his website, dreamsendweb.com. Thank you again, Ty, for joining us.
I enjoyed it, and continued success to you guys.
Thank you.
It's good talking to you.